Hello and welcome to OPA GCSE Sociology, and today we're going to be starting the education unit and looking at why do we have schools. So we're not going to bother with the do now because obviously this is a knowledge schema you would need to complete in class. But before we get on, I'll just show you an outline of the GCSE and where we are in the grand scheme of things. Just bear in mind, obviously, this is the first year of studying it, so people watching this potentially later on, it may not be at the exact point you are at, but it's just to give you an idea of the topics we've gone over as opposed to what topic we're on at what half term. Okay, so what we've done so far, we've gone through the family unit, so the first section of paper one, and we've also gone through essentially the methods in context. So it may feel like, well, we're halfway through the year roughly, wherever we are with this. And we've only got up to the family point, but you need to bear in mind, we had an introduction module. We've then had the research methods in context module, which accounts for 8% of all of the GCSE. And then we've done the family module. So we've actually got quite far through that. And then obviously we're moving on to the sociology of education. So hopefully by the end of this unit, you would have completed half of the GCSE, as it were, maybe even a little bit more if you include the methods in context. So just going over what I've taught in the course so far for the first year. Like I said, it might not 100% apply to you. Yellow means we've gone through it. Purple means I've decided to not do that lesson or pick it up at a different time. So gone through the introduction stuff, we can see, then gone through the research method. So we've gone through the different types of data collection, different sampling, some of the ethical considerations, the difference between quantitative and qualitative. And then for the family stuff, so we've gone through some of those trends. So we've looked at things like rates of divorce and marriage. We've looked at the difference between a family and a household. We've looked at what the different theories think the function of the family is. We've looked at conjugal roles and how they are potentially changing and some of the debates surrounding that. So now we're going to be going through and looking at and just breaking down what the education course goes over. So it looks at initially, it looks at functionalist theory. So it looks at what do the functionalists think the education system as a structure, what is its function? We then go into the Marxist side of that. And then we move on to the different types of school, what's alternative education. And then we go into a little bit more detail of that about the difference between state comprehensive and public, or you might know as private schools. Then we look at how you're going to measure success in education. We look at those internal, external factors of success, and then we go into looking at those internal, external factors of success and achievement in terms of various social stratification. So we look at it in terms of class, we look at it in terms of gender, we look at it in terms of ethnicity, and then finally we finish up by looking at educational policies. Okay, right. So starting off, just really something food for thought here to give you an idea of how important education is. So just fill in the gaps as we go along. No need to write anything. So children start school in the UK at the age of, so just give yourself 5-10 seconds. So that would be 4 to 5. Now there is an option, obviously. It depends on when in a year you are born. Next one. In the UK, children stay in some form of education until the age of, that's 18. So that was changed recently. It used to be 16, and it's only gone up and up and up since educational reforms have come in. Now, this might be the one you're not as familiar with. In the fiscal year 2021-22, the UK spent how much on education? And how much do you think this accounts in terms of percent for the national government spending? The answer, 99.8 billion was spent on education last year. It accounts for 9% of government spending. So just to give you an idea of where other things are, what other things are being financed. So you've got things like defence, healthcare there. You can see though, it is a massive chunk of the fiscal spending, so government spending. So you can see it's clearly an important topic, and it's clearly something that's going to impact everyone. So whether you are a student, whether it comes out of your taxes, or whether it be you have children who go to school, or you're a teacher or work in a school yourself. Right. So what is the purpose of school? So this is task 1, and I just want you to write down what you think the purpose of school is. There might be multiple reasons. I'd ideally like you to get 3 to 5. More would be even better. And then what do you think the different theories say about the purpose of education? So try and take those key points that you've learned about functionalist Marxist theory, feminist theory. What might they say about purpose of school? Okay, so I'm just gonna stop talking, pause a bit to get you qualifications, which ultimately lead to a job. Some people said for life experience, so it might be to make friends. Some people said life skills, so it's to learn basics like how to socialize, how to have conversations, yada yada yada. A student made a really good point. The purpose of school for me as an adult is obviously to teach and to as a career. So you can see that it has a different purpose depending on who you are and in what context you're in. People have also argued as well, culturally, it's there to sort of initiate or construct you, or socialize you rather, into a society. So there's lots of points being made. There's no right or wrong here. Okay, there's lots of purposes for education and schooling. I'm going to look at over the sort of next few videos what those different theories think the purpose is. So we need to get a note down of this for task 2. There's 2 types of curriculum. There's formal and the hidden curriculum, and these are the 2. Think of it as like the 2 tiers of how we learn in school. So there's a formal curriculum, and that is everything that's taught in school, everything that's timetabled. So all of your subjects, GCSEs or BTECs, whatever it may be, and they help you to gain qualifications that will take you into further education or employment. Okay, so it's the stuff essentially you leave certificate-wise, what you're learning. And then there's the hidden curriculum, and that's the values, the attitudes, the principles, sort of passed on, transmitted to pupils, but they're not necessarily part of the curriculum or a timetabled subject. So, for example, you might learn values like punctuality through expectations relating to your uniform, your equipment, your attendance, things like that. And they help you function in wider society and help to create social cohesion, so to make everything work smoothly. So yeah, things like punctuality, manners, making sure that you're hardworking. These are things that are taught indirectly in school. There's no GCSE punctuality or GCSE work hard. These are just skills that you pick up along the way. Okay, so just pause the video if you need to, write those down, preferably come up with an example. So if you need one, formal curriculum, you could say you are studying GCSE sociology. Okay, so that is you learning through a formal curriculum there. Whereas you might say, in terms of expectations, when you're in a sociology class or you're around the school, okay, if I call you out for having your shirt untucked or your top button not done up, that's me calling you out for your punctuality. Okay, trying to regulate that. So trying to encourage the skills for that. Or the fact you're watching this video, or the fact you're doing your homework, that's you learning skills like hard work, perseverance, reflective practice. Okay, so as a stretch and challenge as well, just think about any other examples that apply at OPA. Okay, right, so we're going to jump into theory now, and this lesson and probably next is just going to concentrate on the functionalist perspective of school and its purpose. Okay, and there's two main theorists that we're going to concentrate on. So functionalists see the structure of education as a positive thing. It is part of the organic analogy, helping to maintain social cohesion, so to stop chaos, and to encourage a value consensus, so where we all share values. And there's previous videos where you can look at what the organic analogy is, but just again, remember, see education as one of those structures, one of those organs that's helping to function the body or society, as you like. Functionalists see school as a miniature version of society and a continuation of socialization, where we learn our norms, values, and roles. Functionalists believe there are two main roles of the education system. So there's this political and an economic function. And it's Durkheim and Parsons who are talking about these. So we're going to move on to that. You might want to organize your notes into two bits. One where it's acknowledging political, one where it's acknowledging economic. Make sure you get at least one of those key concepts I'm going to go over for each one of those two. So one for political, one for economic. So there we go. Look, for task 3 now, just make sure you're getting these down. Like I said, at least one for each. Right, so we're going to start with the political role. So the first idea we got is social solidarity. So Durkheim saw the main function of education as the transmission of society's norms and values to individuals. He argued that in order to function, societies must be able to ensure that all their members are united together behind a shared set of values. This creates social solidarity, where individuals see themselves as part of a wider community and no longer as isolated individuals focused on their own selfish aims. Durkheim argued that it wasn't simply through teaching shared values via the hidden curriculum that this could happen, but subjects like history could also instill a sense of shared past or a commitment to wider society. Okay, so just this idea of community, really. You're all in the same boat, as it were. So whether that be, and it gave an extreme example there in history, but it might be in a class or you're just going through the same thing. So it'll make a bit more sense once I go through the example. So, for example, you are all quiet and on time because you collectively want to achieve grades as students and know it is best to do that in a class and to listen. So yeah, there will occasionally be people who are late, there'll be people who talk. And if there are people who consistently do that, they obviously are not sharing that value and won't be there long. But generally speaking, 95% you, 99 maybe, are there on time, are there on it. Okay, think for the context there. Me telling you to be quiet in a class, me telling you to do things in a class, if that was outside of the school setting, outside of a sociology class setting, if I tell you to be quiet, you're not going to listen to me. Okay, it's because you share this value of essentially this collective value that you want to do well. Okay, also you may share a sense of what it means to be British by learning about things in the past, so in history. So topics such as World War II help us to connect with older generations, and the Tudors help us to understand our monarchy. So there's things where we learn in school about something we come under in terms of our identity. So it might be, or as a collective. So it might be we learn we are all committed, like we said in school. It might be that it's something that we share in terms of our identity, so our culture. So if I was to really summarize it, just social solidarity is this idea. It encourages us to essentially have these norms and values that are shared, and these norms and values are things that sort of build this collective, this sense of solidarity with everyone. So the next one, rules and punishment. So again, another political function. So rules and punishment. It is by respecting the school rules that the child learns to respect in general, that they develop the habit of self-control and restraint simply because they should restrain and control themselves. So Durkheim believed that punishment should reflect the seriousness of the damage done to the wider social group on society. He also believed that this would lead to people being self-disciplined as they would come to realize that their behavior damaged to society as a whole. So it's this idea just acknowledging that there are consequences, I guess. So we need to follow rules, otherwise it's going to damage society and damage our situation. And that encourages this self-regulation, this self-discipline. So for example, if you are disruptive in a lesson, you'll be sent to supervision, told you are taking away other people's learning, impacting that miniature society. Remember, they think a school or the education system is a microcosm of wider society. So just like you're causing disruption for everyone else's learning, so you're impacting everyone in that microcosm there, you're being punished for that. And it's trying to reflect that if you do things in wider society that are going to be detrimental for others, like crimes or things like that, you're going to be punished because you are damaging not just yourself, but you're damaging society. So if you continue, you'll be punished further in intending to benefit society and to help you learn. You need to control your behavior, or you may face consequences later on. So things like prison, unemployment. So rules and punishment is just teaching us that if we don't follow the rules, if we don't do what society perceives to be the right thing, then it's not going to benefit society and others, and you'll be punished for that. Okay, so we've got two more now. So the universal standard, so we're moving on to Parsons now. So Parsons believes that schools prepared students for wider society by teaching them to treat everyone according to universalistic standards. This is different from particularistic standards, where parents or guardians may have specific standards and values within the family, which may be different to other values in other families. In the family, you have an ascribed status given to you with no choice. So either a son, daughter, nephew, niece, whatever it may be, where you are judged as good or bad based on that family value. So it's just making the point there that your family, your guardians have, in your role, they have different expectations. So some families will have really high expectations for you, whereas others will have really maybe low expectations, and they'll have different ways of sort of regulating and what they expect of you. But in wider society, you are judged by universalistic standard. So by these universal school rules, school laws, which are applied the same way to everyone. People's status in society is achieved based on qualifications and hard work. Schools prepare young people from this shift in particularistic standards to universalistic standards. Just making the point there that expectations at home from family to family vary, but the expectations within education are the same. It's a level playing field, as it were. The same expectations of every student, give or take. So it's encouraging you to acknowledge that in society, in wider society, everyone has to follow the rules. Everyone has obligations that are universalistic. Whereas if you are in a family, you may not experience that because your family might have specific expectations. Let me give an example. At home, your family may not encourage values such as good behavior or hard work. So your parents might let you swear. Your parents might not care if you do your homework and do nothing in the way of your education. However, in school, if you misbehave and do not work hard, you'll get into trouble and struggle during your exams. So, for example, if you swear in class, your parents Some parents would pull you up on swearing, some wouldn't. In class, everyone's pulled up. Everyone is told that's not right. Okay. This encourages young people to realize that how they act in wider society later on and the status they get is not ascribed but achieved. So it's this idea, think meritocracy, it's this idea that everyone's going to be treated the same, no special treatment. You need to follow the rules like everyone else, and that's going to help you in later society realize that as well. Okay, finally, we have value consensus. So you'll be aware of what the value consensus is. So Parsons shares a similar idea to that of Durkheim's social solidarity. The value consensus is the shared value within society. Parsons argued that there are two key values that the education system teaches. So the first one, that students are encouraged to value high achievement and the rewards that this brings. So they aim to achieve more as a result. In this way, they are encouraged to maximize their potential, which will benefit wider society. So just this idea, value your achievement. And then secondly, students are encouraged to compete with each other on equal terms within the classroom. So indirectly encouraged to get the best grades, be the best. So encourage the belief of meritocracy. You deserve your reward based on effort and talent. So yeah, this idea of meritocracy, and we're going to look at that next lesson as well. It's this idea that if you work hard, if you are talented, you will therefore be rewarded based a reflection on those things. So just an example, in theory, if you work hard in school, you will achieve the grades you deserve. These values will benefit you later in life, in further education and the workplace. You work hard and you'll be rewarded in life for it. So yeah, you're learning through revising in your GCs, through listening, through being talented. You in theory should do well in your GCSEs, and that will tell you, it'll make you realize, look, if I work hard for this, just like in the future, if I work hard to get a job, work hard in that job, I can get promotions, I can get pay increases, things like that. I can be successful. So what are the British values? So this is just an example of some of the things that sort of coincide with the functionalist theory and what they're talking about that actually are used in schools across the country, even at OPA. So things like tolerance, that's the idea there, and respect, it's links into the idea of rules and punishment. It links into the idea of social solidarity, but it also is, if you can see here, these are things that are going to help you in wider society. So it's that whole idea that in school, it's that microcosm, remember, and we're learning these political values. Okay, so that's lesson 1. We're going to continue with functionalist theory next lesson. Okay, and that's the end of the recording.